Hi, this is Rebekah
and Leslie
with the Geeky Girls Night In podcast. Geeky Girls Night In is a podcast with your fandom family sleepover style.
Empowering fans and creating inclusive fan spaces where we can all be ourselves.
So get your jammies,
grab a drink,
gather the fur babies,
and join the conversation.
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming back this week with Geeky Girls Night In. Leslie is actually out of town having a great time at a wedding. So joining us today, my co-host is my sister.
Hello.
Michele, who has also blogged a couple of times, and she was on one of the episodes, so you guys know her. So basically we're going to do what we usually do, but of course missing Leslie. Hopefully, Leslie, you're having a great time. So we're going to go into the Week in Geek first. Later, we're going to have an interview, which I've already done the interview, and let me say, it's pretty awesome. It's with Terran, who is an actor, non-binary activist, and all-around amazing Earper and artist. So that'll be next. So as far as our Week in Geek, so Michele, one of your shows got renewed this week. That's pretty awesome. Tell us about that.
Yes, very excited. Was it this week or was it last week? I can't remember.
Well, I was sick
I'm-
last week, so technically we're covering 2 weeks.
Either way, I'm super psyched. Yeah, and honestly, like I was really happy when Brooklyn Nine-Nine got renewed, but I wasn't shocked because it's been getting so much good press and it's so popular, all this stuff. But Lucifer, the show that got renewed this past week or two, I did not expect for it to get renewed just because it's a very pretty, shiny show. It's hilarious. It's fun. It's full of pretty people, but it's not, it doesn't do like the sort of work that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is doing with like, with Rosa coming out as bisexual, with whole, like, it's not as culturally, like socially important, but it was such a release. Like for me, it was such a fun show to watch. It's so silly. Like, if I even described the plot line of the last season, you would be like, this is the most dramatic, like weird soap opera, but they make it so fun to watch. Like it's silly, but it's just so pretty and it's so enjoyable. And sometimes you don't want to be challenged. Like you want your brain to just, it's like every personal challenge that Lucifer is sort of dealing with just happens to coincide with like the case of the week where he learned some big lesson. Like it's the cheesiest, and I adore it. I really do. And
Tom Ellis,
and
how
I did
could
not
you lose?
Yeah, and the ratings were never that great, and it has a little bit of a fandom, but not like Supernatural, not like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I had no idea that it would be renewed. I did not have any hope for that whatsoever. So when Netflix picked it up, I was so psyched. And for Lucifer fans, any of you that are listening, you will know that they ended the last season on purpose with an extreme cliffhanger because, the guy who makes the show was like, I thought that if we did that, they would have no choice but to renew us. So spoiler alert, for the last 4 seasons, Chloe's the only one that hasn't been able to see what Lucifer is. Lucifer, for the first 3 seasons, he had a choice. He could show somebody his real face, his devil face. And when he tried to do it with Chloe, it didn't work. His devil face was gone. And he's like furious with his dad about it. So basically, she's the only person that hasn't, so the very last episode, the very last scene, the very last 30 seconds from like, long story short, but she sees who he is. And she finally, after 4 seasons of thinking like that, his construct of himself as Lucifer is like his psychological way of dealing with things. After all of that, she sees him for who he is, and then boom, end of the episode. And then they're like, "Oh, show's canceled," and we all like collectively screamed. And I'm not even like, I love the show, but I'm not even like that invested as opposed to other shows. But I was like, "Come the fuck on! How are you gonna do that?" Like, you want to see Chloe's reaction. You want to see, because they do have this bond, and the way she sees him is going to so fundamentally change. So anyway, they felt bad. The leader, the head showrunner guy was just like, you guys, I'm so sorry because we screwed you over, but we were trying to save the show and like do it for you guys. So when they picked it up, I was way more psyched than I would have been if the show had even ended like in a fashion where you're like, okay, that's a good end. But I'm like, come on, you can't do us like that, guys.
That is pretty
So
cool.
Anyway, I was super psyched, very excited that Netflix picked it up. I it's just one of those shows. Like it's funny. I almost said like Cougar Town, but it really is, where it doesn't really challenge you, and it's comforting and it's soothing, and there's so many pretty people on it, and you know that the writers are never gonna like really break your heart, and that's sometimes just something you need when you watch so many heavy things. So yeah, that was definitely something I was really psyched about the last couple of weeks.
Tom Ellis is just a joy to watch.
Oh, and a joy to listen to, and a joy to, did you say watch already? Yes,
He's
watch.
a goddamn delight.
That man is
and
hella fine.
And Principal Yes I Would is on the show.
Oh God, DB Woodside. Thank you, Jesus, for that man. And I mean, ever since Buffy, obviously we've both really loved him. And another thing that's really cool is him and the actress who plays the demon. Oh my gosh, such an asshole. I'm blanking on her name, and I love her so much. They started a GoFundMe for to help the children reunite the immigrant children with their parents, and they raised I think over $50,000 already. But it was Maze, that's her name on the show. Sorry, Maze is the name of the demon on the show, and it was her brainchild. And then D.B. Woodside and Tom Ellis like helped promote it. It's just so great when you see your fandom people doing good things. But everyone on the show is as silly as the show is, they have actually made really good strides in a lot of ways, because like Maze started out as like her, she was basically his bodyguard, and like she came with Lucifer from hell and basically just sort of, was his demon. She served him. And then within the first 2 years, she was just like, what the fuck? Like, why am I always the one that picks up the pieces? Why is Chloe the one that you care about? And she's not in love with him or anything, but she's like, you should prioritize me. I matter more. And they've really developed her as a character. And then bringing in that lovely actress as the new CSI girl, who's like the most fun. They really have just, they were hitting their stride. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. And goddamn, every beautiful man looks better in eyeliner. Bless them for making Satan canonically bisexual, and also putting him in makeup, because he looks 20 times hotter in eyeliner, because what magic. Hot man doesn't? But
it's
when he's, because he, at the beginning it was kind of annoying. Like it was always the same skinny model, pretty girls that he was doing. So they started like expanding his repertoire in like season 2, 3. And I was like, all right. And it was like not treated as a big, like Chloe didn't react to it like bad. Like nobody reacted to it badly. They're just like, oh, okay. So yeah, he started banging dudes and like more, a few women that weren't like, supermodels, but they still have a lot to go in that area as far as like, but at least he's doing dudes now. Cause I was like, come on, if you're going to give me a sex crazed Lucifer, if he's not canonically bisexual, get him the fuck off my TV screen.
You know what? That's legit. Well, I'm really happy. I want to catch up with it myself. And also I'm hoping, upon hope, this is a good omen for us to get Wayward Sisters.
Definitely. So, that's what I said on Twitter. I was like, you know what? Third time's the charm.
Yeah.
We got Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We got Lucifer. Like, Wayward Sisters has just as much, it has way more, actually, I think, fandom than even Lucifer. So,
yeah. Like,
why not? It has so many people rooting for it.
Yes. So, keep hope alive. I've been doing
Definitely.
The Wayward
and I ship those two girls.
The Wayward _Thunder, I think is what it is. We're doing Thunder Claps. We got a bunch of stuff going. I'll put in the show notes. Oh yeah, yes. Dream Hunter is the name of the ship.
Oh my god!
Kai and Claire.
Even just
I'm
that
about
episode of Supernatural, just that one thing was just so organic, and they just seemed so lovely together, and so just precious. It was just like a young love story, like you would expect. Like it wasn't forced, it wasn't anything. And I'm like, I'm here for that.
Bobo teased it. He's like tweeted. He just went like Dream
I saw
Hunter.
That.
Yeah. So
Bobo's the best.
And so one of the things you said kind of leads into one of the two things I'm going to talk about. So you were talking about when our faves actually, are out there doing positive things. So one thing I want to talk about is, I do feel like at some point, even during the campaign, most of the people who are actors felt they needed to, they feel they need to stay out of quote unquote politics. And so few of our favorites really jumped into the fray. Obviously, Misha did. He campaigned for Clinton. And at that point, I think a lot of people were like, oh, he's not going to win, or, oh, is it that much different? Whatever.
Misha stepped out of the
Misha
safety
was
zone
out
early.
there. He was out there. He was campaigning. Like, he had a sense of what this would mean for people. And now that things have progressively each day gotten more heinous and horrific,
Right.
more and more people are stepping up.
Definitely.
And, as far as them being actors and as far as this being a pop culture podcast, you can dismiss something as politics if politics doesn't affect your day-to-day life. And if it doesn't, then hey, congratulations. But you know what? The things that we love, the people we support, this all has to do with real life. All of this coverage of the families being separated has been so devastating. And, obviously you're my sister, for me, it definitely triggered depression for me. And it's like, there's a lot of people out here that we're fighting these battles, and to have the people that we're supporting, that we show up at everything that they do. We go watch every one of their projects. We support their Kickstarters. To have them support us back is hugely meaningful. And there have been some people who really been amazing. And it's just like, you hold that to your heart. That means so much to you. You'll never forget. So one thing Misha did, I don't know if you saw it, but he actually took a picture of his children wrapped in the silver, in silver blankets, and posted it. And that was really powerful. And I'm sure there were a lot of people who thought, oh, you're exploiting your kids. But what he did with that tweet was, my kids are precious and so are yours. And sadly, that's not something that a lot of people will say. And I just, man, Misha doesn't even know what the comfort zone is. He follows his gut. He follows what he thinks is right. And he's been really boldly out there in defense of immigrants and refugees and kids. And that means a lot. And also Felicia Day started her Stands campaign today. She's raising money for Raíces Texas, which is a group that helps the separated families. So Felicia's amazing. And also Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, they pledged money to the ACLU. And I will say, you guys know I'm also a political geek and activist, because this is my fucking life. This is my family's life. What else am I supposed to do? So the ACLU, and I have done some volunteering with them, they have really thrown all in with immigrants and refugees since the last election, because that's the most vulnerable population, and that's what our current president is shredding the Constitution over. They managed, between their donations and inspiring fans, $1 million. Yeah. At the ACLU.
That was the 70, you mean Chrissy Teigen, the 72nd birthday one? Yeah, that was great idea.
The ACLU, let me tell you, they're putting this to work. Michele and I both live in Southern California, in the Inland Empire area. We did not have an ACL. We had one sort of satellite ACLU office. Now we have a full office here. And this is an area that's working class, very heavily immigrant. We have a lot of shit that goes down here, and now we have support because of stuff like that. So you can really see these things happening. So I just wanted to, I guess, say that people who we stand, who are our favorites, who we support, seeing them support us back, knowing that this shit doesn't necessarily affect them. You and I have loved ones and family members who are undocumented, and they don't necessarily, but they're still out there. It's just an amazing feeling. It's like, you're not just taking our support and walking away with it to the bank. Like, you're supporting us back. But
also, I definitely feel like it's not for us, but it's still we're still so grateful for it.
Yeah. Even though,
because that's the thing. Like, I would add that, like, someone like Misha, he jumped in, right after Trump was even a viable candidate. Yeah. He was like, holy shit. But there have been a lot of them, like that have played the middle ground, like Sarah Michelle Gellar, like Jewel State, that don't really like to say a lot, but things have gotten so heinous that even the stars that aren't like Misha, that aren't as bold, have come out like at this point being, and Felicia Day, you know, she's always kind of been, she's said her piece, but she's never been very strong, like, you know,
running
constantly sort of outspoken about anything like that. But I mean, she's a new mom is one thing, but also like it's gotten so heinous to the point where even people like, I'll use Sarah Michelle Gellar as an example because she's notoriously like, oh, okay, like, yes, you know, I'm going to vote for Hillary, but I want everyone to like buy my stuff. You know, she's one of those, and that's fine. I don't hate on her. Make your money. But even she has come out, you know, talking about like all of a sudden everybody is being like, okay, this is a moment in history where we are going to be judged by how we act and what we say in this moment. And that's how bad it's gotten. It's that moment of like, you know, our kids are going to look back and be like, you kept your fucking mouth shut when kids were being thrown in cages. And even, you know, it's brought it out in almost every single person.
Yeah. And so definitely, you know, shopstands.com has Felicia Day's Love Has No Border campaign. People are supporting the Raíces Texas. And then I would be remiss if I didn't do a plug for my own group. Locally, we have the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. We have rapid response teams. There are people who's like, oh, this has been going on. Not on this scale, but guess what? Our families have always been separated. We've like,
of course.
And so supporting the people who've been doing this work for decades is also a wonderful thing. So we have rapid response teams here locally that help people who are incarcerated for basically, you know, existing, who are deported, whose families are separated. And so I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, but that is the Deportation Defense Fund. And, you know, we're a working class area and, you know, also very heavily conservative area. So we don't get a lot of, we have to kind of be very discreet about what we do here. So any support to our organization would also be very appreciated. So anyway, we see you guys and we thank you, basically, is that's the idea for that. And then I also wanted to bring up something that happened 2 weeks ago. We didn't get to talk about last weekend because I was sick. So Chris Hardwick.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so I feel like we should talk about this because, one, you and I are going to San Diego Comic-Con, and we're used to seeing his face.
That we are.
We're used to seeing his face all weekend. Yeah, we just got our badges.
From end of Comic-Con. He runs that jam.
Yeah. And we just got our badges for it. Yeah. And so we also saw his stand-up, I think, last year or the year before.
We did. The year before last. And you know what? It was really, really good.
Yeah, no, he was really funny. So anyone who hasn't been living under a rock, his ex-girlfriend, Chloe, posted on Medium. She didn't use his name, but it was clear who she was talking about.
Yeah.
Basically describing an abusive, you know, an emotionally abusive and sexually abusive relationship with someone who also tried to basically did blacklist her after they broke up. And what was really interesting was, you know, first of all, if you read the piece, it's incredibly heartfelt and you read it and you go, oh God, yep, you know.
Relatable as shit. I mean, I will not name names, but, you know, it definitely reminded me of a relationship that you had very, very early on.
Sure. Yeah.
And the controlling bit, not so much the like, you know, like kid going out and getting other actresses' numbers like Chris did, but like, you know, the whole like you shouldn't even want to leave the house if you're not with me kind of thing.
Right.
It's so relate. Like every woman like read that and went, oh yeah, I've been in that relationship.
Yeah, and cringed. And so, and then after that, there was sort of this avalanche of people tweeting, going, "Yep," you know, people who wrote for him, and even because I do feel like when allegations like this are made, what people's reputations are becomes very quickly apparent. Like, even if you're not in the business, what people are tweeting, what they're saying in the interviews about it, you're like, their reputations in the industry really becomes apparent. And people,
of course,
were really
you
like,
run a company, like a lot of people work for you. They know how you are.
Yeah. So the tweets were saying like, definitely. Yeah. And then of course Nerdist scrubbed his name from everything. So,
but she hasn't been associated with them for a while, but they were just definitely like, we're going to make sure everybody knows that.
yeah, which I don't know, all of that tells you something. So to me, between
Definitely
her writing and everyone's reaction, that really tells me, look, this guy's a dick.
That and also the fact that he leaked his text to TMZ to prove absolutely nothing. Like, what a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I when I say like, oh, I wasn't surprised. That doesn't mean I expected it. Like I said, I thought his stand-up was funny, but when you even got him within 10 feet of a star or somebody who was famous, he turned into just this slavering, like, sort of just ass kisser, and you feel like you completely can see that, like, if somebody was not famous, like Chloe, I mean, she was famous, but not as famous as him. It's the power dynamic.
Yeah,
like, I could absolutely believe that he treats his current wife like gold because she has status in his eyes. Like, she's more famous than him. She has more money than him. But somebody who was younger than him by over 10 years, somebody who was just starting out in her career, it did not surprise me even a little bit that he would think that he had that sort of power over her, that he could tell her how to live and where to go and what to wear. And
and so like what that means for us as fans, because there's quite a few people kind of who are nerds for a living, and of course we'd all love to be nerds for a living, because who doesn't want to be a nerd for a living?
Oh yeah, no,
but
it's
Chris,
his career. Like,
yeah, and Chris really built that, and but I think we should take this opportunity to be like, man, who's even more deserving? There are people who are more charming.
Exactly.
There are so many people, especially women of color, who are out there who are more funny, who are more charming, who are more passionate about the material, who could do what he's doing in his sleep. And I think, we need to support those people. And of course, they took him off all of the panels, so I can't wait to see who they're going to choose for Doctor Who.
Definitely. But I'm like, that's what I was about to say. Even just take away what the current thing that just happened. Just take it away, all of it. He still should not have fucking been moderating that Doctor Who panel. No,
that's a moment. I mean, that's a moment for us.
At least have it be a woman or an ally, like a fucking, like, it's, he moderated Doctor Who panels in the past and he did a fine job, but this is such a huge deal that we have our first female doctor, and you're going to have the same, like, nerdy bro. And again, I'm not trying to front like I didn't like Chris Hardwick. I did, but I'm also, I wasn't like a fan. I just was like, he's like, that's the kind of job I want to have. I want to nerd out over people. That's why I liked him, because I was like, oh, he built a career of doing stuff that we wanted to do. It wasn't like a personal like. That's why I wasn't disappointed or like hurt, where I was just like, my liking of him came from the fact that, like, oh shit, he built a career on like being a fan and being a nerd, and like that's the dream. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. So many more people are so much more deserving, and having him host that panel even before this was borderline inappropriate. Yeah. Now it would be obviously an insulting, like, slap in the face. And so I'm so excited to see who they pick, and I really hope it's a woman. And
I mean, we're both really, really, really excited about the next Doctor, obviously.
Oh yes.
Fiona, I'm trying to remember her last name at the moment.
What'd you say?
Fiona, what is her name? The
her
actress?
name's not Fiona.
No? Who's the new actress?
Oh, the new Doctor? Yeah.
Jodie Whittaker.
Whittaker, yeah.
I don't know why I said
Fiona.
I think. Oh, you know what? I think that's her character on Broadchurch, maybe. Anyway.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Whatever. Jodie Whittaker. Basically, really excited, and it's a huge moment to have a first female Doctor.
Definitely.
Michele has offered to come up with a themed party menu so we can have a watch party. And I can't help but draw this parallel. When I was 18 and I was 19, you were 15. We got our first female starship captain.
Oh, Janeway. Yes, I forgot that we did that.
We went, I lived in that little trailer behind the gas station, and we walked down to the 99-cent store and just got a bunch of little, dumb toys, put on like stick on nails, had our fake money, whatever. We just wanted to feel like it was a party or whatever. And we got our snacks, our little Debbies, and we watched it together. And it was a really definitive moment. That. And to me, that's what this reminds me of. Like, it is something, I've watched Doctor Who since I was in second grade. And it's something that's so meaningful. And for it to be, to take that step now to say, it's, for us too, it's a big deal. So
Oh my God.
we're
You know, I
gonna
just thought of.
what?
You know who should host the Doctor Who panel?
Who?
Freema. Because she was on. Right, I heard that noise. That
My
was a
baby
squeal.
Freema. My baby
No, because she was on
Freema.
Doctor Who, and she's a woman of color, and she just, finished Sense8. She has like a lot of like things to say. I think she'd be amazing. Or even
Yeah.
Karen Gillan would be good. Like, they should pick a woman that was on Doctor Who.
They
And
usually
I mean,
don't
who
pick-
better than Freema?
That's true. But either way, it's
Plus, we
going to
get
be
to
a
look
big
at her for like
party.
an hour.
And we're going to make sure you guys all have our party packs. We're going to do menus and drinking games
Definitely.
and all that good
I
stuff.
have it all planned. I have so many Doctor Who treats planned.
So,
Adipose marshmallows on sticks.
yes. Okay, so I think that's pretty much our main update this week. We're going to have the interview next, but we're excited you guys came along. And
thanks for letting me fill in for the lovely Leslie.
Of course. And yeah, so we'll see you guys next time. So today we have a really exciting interview. We're interviewing Terran, who is a friend of mine and also an Earper. And Terran is a non-binary mixed race queer boy, a published writer and activist. Terran's work has been published by Everyday Feminism, Woke Today, and Soul, and has also worked for such organizations as Boy Society and Rape on Campus and the Queerness and Game Convention. Their work focuses on creating supportive and educational resources for gender nonconforming, trans, and queer folk, and queer fashion, film, and pop culture. Terran graduated from UC Berkeley with a BA in English and a minor in LGBT studies, and currently lives in Los Angeles, where they are pursuing acting and increasing trans and non-binary representation in film and television. So basically, you are perfect for this podcast. It's like everything we care about, everything we love to talk about, entertainment, media, inclusivity, all of that awesome stuff. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, and so Terran, my first question is, you use the terms prince and boy to describe yourself online, which is BOI. So can you explain the meaning or feelings behind those terms for people who maybe haven't heard them before?
Sure. I identify as a non-binary boy. To me, that means I'm neither a man nor a woman nor anything in between. I occupy different fluctuating levels of masculinity, femininity, or neither, according to how I feel in the moment. I don't really ever want to be constrained by gender roles or expectations. So in each and every moment, I just want to exist as myself in whatever form of truth that takes. Mm-hmm. But being a boy, to me, speaks more to my style, I think, that I'm a little masculine leaning, and that my fashion choices reflect that. Also, having boy as part of my identity also helps a lot when it comes to making it easier with terminology, since language and colloquialisms are so often gendered. Right. Like boyfriend, as an alternative to boyfriend, girlfriend, or partner, instead of saying person all the time, which can be awkward in its formality.
Yeah.
But as for the Prince title, it was really just for the fun of it. You have all over pop culture this fascination with royalty, Queen Bey, we stand a queen, regalness and royalty has been repurposed by the masses to uplift us. It's a new tool to make a statement that even we are more than worthy. But being a king doesn't really interest me. But as a prince, it carries more romanticization and charm than any statement about power. So as an NB prince, I'm really saying, hey, non-binary people can be what you dream of too.
That's beautiful. And it really does seem to fit you too. You have like that swagger and style and stuff.
Thank you.
Cool. So what drew you to acting in the first place?
acting kind of snuck up on me. It wasn't until I got into acting that I thought about it, and I was just like, it makes sense. I've kind of been working up to this my entire life. When I was a kid, some of the earliest stories that I have from my grandparents is me performing Elvis songs at 3 years old in the middle of my grandma's nail salon.
Oh, my God.
And, growing up as before 6 years old, 8 years old, I would be asked to be introduced, like whenever. And my grandparents would make me sing over the phone to like random relatives. And once I got into middle school, I mean, I loved, like, you popcorn read and you read out loud, and we would read Shakespeare. And I was the only person to literally stand up and walk around and read my parts out loud in an accent. And I think I did a soliloquy. I did Mark Antony from Julius Caesar in like 8th grade, and my English teacher gave me the Better Than Brando award because Marlon Brando,
Nice. So always you had a sense of like show of drama.
Yeah, I've always done it, and I was vice president of the drama club in high school. I did it for 2 years, and in college, I didn't really perform until senior year, and I was asked, a week before a show to do this Shakespeare piece by Bo Burnham. And it was so much fun, and but yeah, I didn't really think about it until last year. One of my friends is a director, and so she produces a lot of queer YouTube series. And we went out for drinks, and I was reading out loud the script with our other friend who had a part in the new webisode that was being produced. And my friend loved how I read it so much that she wrote me in to the episode. And it was my first role, like it was a non-binary role, and I thought that was so cool. And when I was acting in it, it was my first time really acting, because I do have one credit to my name. On my 13th birthday, my stepdad was working on a set, and I needed an extra, and so I'm little girl in car in the movie Daydreamer.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's a silent role. I wave, and I don't wave very well, but I hope you don't judge me for that.
But it's a role, damn it.
It is a role, Beth. But yeah, everyone was really impressed by how I did during the webisode, and they were really shocked that it was like my first time ever doing anything like that, because of how professional I was and how well I went with everything. And then I did a play for the same friend like shortly afterwards, and I was intrigued. I loved it so much. And I was thinking about, because last fall I was so down. I was feeling really defeated after my fellowship with End Rape on Campus. I did a lot of anti-sexual violence work and resource development for trans and queer survivors of sexual assault. And that was during the time where Betsy DeVos did a lot of undoing of things, and the whole Trump thing. And it was just, I felt so defeated. And, you and I met through the Earper fandom.
Yes, the awesome Earper fandom.
The awesome Earper fandom, which I think saved me in a lot of ways last year. But I was thinking critically about why the fandom means so much to me, and what it's done for me, and why I plunged into it, and why, like, everything that Kat and Dom or Emily or any of them say on Twitter, like, why does it mean so much to me, to queer folk in general? Because I'm a nerd, so I love
You're a nerd
the
company.
idea of, like, digital marketing, media, like social media management, how that all ties in with branding, but also like community building and representation and all of that. And all of that was swirling through my mind. And I was just like, it means so much because these shows are sometimes people's last lifeline. It's their last strip of hope in a world that just is so dangerous and crumbling around you. So that tied to like how I was feeling defeated in all of the work that I've done, and then discovering that this new art form, I was just like, oh, you know what? What Dom and Kat and Emily, what they provide for people, I want to do that. But as a non-binary person, as a trans person, because, it's great. Dom and Kat, they're heaven sent. They expend so much more emotional labor and like they just take care of us when they didn't have to. When so many actors who have been in their shoes, have just treated their roles as roles. Whereas Dom and Kat, they understand the impact that they make and how much they actually mean to this community, and they give. But they're also, white and cis, and I need to see myself up there. People like me need to see themselves up there. They need a lifeline, and that's what I want it to be for people.
That's so important. It's so important. And a lot of what we talk about on the podcast is how, things like fandom and especially shows that are fantasy or sci-fi, how, those things can be safe ways that we express our emotions and connect. And it can be, they can be things that are very profound and meaningful to us. Absolutely. So, speaking of non-binary representation, a couple things have happened. Well, I've seen happen on Twitter that seem like they're pretty fun. One is, didn't Emily Andras reply or talk to you about a possible non-binary role in Wynonna Earp? What happened with that? Or what? I feel like I saw something like that. Tell me how it happened.
Yeah. She posted something for like Trans Awareness Day, and she spoke about doing more to help that community. So I responded that I look forward to the trans and non-binary characters that she will write then. More as like a challenge to really follow through, because so many people make statements like that on like trans or queer awareness or remembrance days, and really continue to not actually make changes in their lives to help in any actual capacity. And I try not to reply to the cast or crew on Twitter or tag them in anything, like, unless I really want them to see and respond to what I write to them. So it meant a lot to me that she saw my tweet and actually responded. She said that, she is working on a non-binary character that's supposedly like some kind of dragon or reptilian, some kind of
dragon
creature,
like related to dolls or what?
Could be another hot dragon for us to fan over.
Totally.
But she asked me if I was down to help out with the development of that character when the time comes. And of course I said yes. Not sure if it was a personal ask of me or a general one to the non-binary knowledgeable folks in the fandom. But either way, Emily, if you're listening, I'm fully available for consultation work.
Totally. You lodged your availability anyway, so that's important. And then another thing that I saw happen, which I had to leave early, so I wasn't there, but another group that you and I have been a part of is Dom Squad, and Dom Squad is a Facebook group I started, and we like to promote Dominique's projects. So we
Bex is being a little modest there. Rebekah had formed the group fucking like plans everything. Has organized over 100 people easily, over 200 people probably, across different social media platforms to help promote Dominique's work in her indie films.
And we get to do a little fun
Mostly
stuff.
Buckout Road.
Yeah.
So me and Bex actually have organized several meetups together for the Dom Squad,
Yeah.
which has been really exciting.
It's been so much fun. And then the last one of the tapings, so the director / writer Matthew Curry Holmes, who's come on our group and done a Q&A and stuff like that, he was kind of like, hey, who are all these people? Because we feel like a whole row, like, who are all these people yelling? And he you know, kind of got to meet us and get to know us a little bit as Earpers and Dom Squad. And I had left, but I guess during Q&A, you guys talked about, hey, Dom should have a non-binary love interest. What was that conversation?
That took me by surprise. MCH was such a cool dude. He talked to us after the screening because there were like, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 of us that showed up. We took over that theater, to be honest.
That was so fun.
We were very loud. But we were talking to MCH about Dom's character, and Matthew, he said that he was thinking of doing a sequel to Buckout Road. And one of my friends, I think it was Marissa, she kind of like coughed into her shoulder and was like, make her gay.
Yes.
And Matthew heard it and he was like, well, why not pan? You know what? Why not pan and non-binary? And I was shocked, and I like, before I even knew what was coming out of my mouth, I was like, I'm pan and non-binary. And without skipping a beat, he was like, well, you should date. And like everyone went quiet. And I was just like, wait, what? And he was like, you know, in the movie, you should date in the movie. And I'm like, well, I do act, so you should definitely call me.
Here's my card. Yeah, that was so much
really
fun.
It made my night for sure.
So, we know you act, and you're an activist. What other ways do you have of expressing yourself? You know, expressing your joy and love of fandom. I know you do cosplay occasionally. What's that like? And what else do you what are the other creative outlets?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. That was a lot of questions.
I know. I tend to pack
those.
a lot in one sentence. Basically, like, what are your sort of artistic outlets besides acting?
Besides acting, I'm primarily a writer, so I write a lot of pop culture critique, and I develop resources for queer people, mainly having to do with language and terminology. But aside from that, I love to dance. I actually love dancing hip hop, salsa, and bachata.
Oh, I love salsa.
So I do that. Thank you. I mean, I'm Cuban, so I kind of have to.
Yeah, you do. You pretty much do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I love books because I'm a writer, obviously. I love traveling. I don't know if that counts as art, but I love art too. Art is good. I love learning. I do calligraphy. I can draw, and I'm familiar with 7 different languages.
Wow.
So yeah, and food, you know, I mean, anything creative, I will do it. I've done conference organization. I've done social media management. I've, you know, written any project you put me in, I'll do it, because art is so fulfilling to me, and doing it for the sake of making this world better is honestly like what I love. I'm actually coming out with a children's book at the end of the year.
Yes.
It's kind of like an ABC book.
I supported it.
But it's yeah, you did.
Yes.
Thank you.
This looks amazing. Yeah, tell
We're
us about
working on the
that.
title because the title that we wanted was a little bit too similar to an already existing book. But it's basically like an illustrated children's book, ABCs about LGBT plus terminology to help facilitate discussions between children and adults at an earlier age so that they have the language and the awareness to begin learning about themselves, so they don't have to grow up not having a word for something or not knowing that a concept exists and they're just lost or they hate themselves. And it's also pretty helpful for adults too if they're
Totally.
beginners to the whole.
Yeah. Because obviously kids who fall on the LGBT spectrum, we want them to be able to do what you're striving to do, which is just get up and be yourself. Don't worry about anything else, about where you fit into, what label you fit into, just being yourself. And then also for any kids, like my son, he's turning 16 this week. And, as far as I know, he's straight and cis but he's always had questions, literally always. I mean, and so it was on Indiegogo. Are you guys still taking donations on Indiegogo, or is the campaign closed?
Our campaign was closed, but we are planning on, we're self-publishing. So
Cool.
the first batch of our printed books will definitely have left over. And I'll probably be posting something on my social media with a link with how to order anything.
Okay, and I'll put the Indiegogo campaign in the show notes anyway. I think people can maybe still get on an email list.
Check it out. Yeah, there's
a
ton of information there.
Because I would have loved to had it at any point. I mean, he's 16. He started asking questions obviously very early, because when you have an open relationship with your kid and they feel like they can talk to you, they're going to come to you. And I remember him asking me early on, like, so wait, how many genders are there? Like, what's this all about?
Which is amazing that he even is aware of those concepts at such a young age.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, I would bring those things up just as far as gender, just to make sure he was going to be accepting of himself and then acting right at school. Like if we go through a drive-through, it'd be like, oh, boy toy or girl toy. And I would tell him, look, it's a truck or it's a doll. You can have whichever one you want, and he'd be like, oh, well, I want a truck. And I'd say, okay, but just so you know, you can eat whatever you want. And if you're at school and there's any little boys who like dolls or vice versa, and you ever tease anyone, like, I will take it out of your hide. I will be like, I would always kind of I wouldn't always say like that, but I would just kind of really try to reinforce, we all get to be ourselves, period. It's completely weird when adults care what color you like, and it's completely creepy when adults care what toys you like. So, I mean, he was kind of thinking that, and then he would ask me a lot of questions, like even if, there's a protest or something, like what's going on. So when I looked at this, I was like, oh God, I could have used this, and I think
I could have used it.
Yeah.
So I thought I was a freak for all of elementary school. I thought I was half gay. I didn't even have the word until I was in 7th or 8th grade, and someone in my grade was bisexual, and I was like, oh, what? There's a word for it? Like I thought I was. Yeah. I legitimately thought I was a freak. So it's pretty amazing that children these days have access to these concepts, and adults are coming into it, and parents like you are starting these discussions, making everything seem a little bit more fluid, a little bit more open, and just not so damn restricting. You're a kid, you're already struggling, you're already going to struggle to figure out how you fit into this world. Why make it harder on someone?
Yeah, and that's why I think everybody should support this book, needs to get it. I think everybody can benefit from it, and hopefully, you guys can also get it in the libraries and stuff like that, because that would be great.
We're actually planning on donating several of our books to different LGBT centers and schools and stuff.
That's great. That is great. Now, as speaking of non-binary inclusion, one topic I think is important and is important to me because I, move in a lot of geek and feminist spaces. And so I want to talk about non-binary inclusion in feminist spaces and feminist geek spaces. Because I was thinking about this because, you and I both went to Klexicon this past April. And Klexicon is an amazing convention. It's for LGBT women and allies. And it's it says LGBT women and allies. And I would say walking around, it's definitely like a feminist atmosphere, definitely a pro-women atmosphere. And it just kind of makes me think when we make the kind of progress where, say, LGBT women get their own spaces, I think it's important we kind of, we rethink these spaces as opposed to just going, oh, we got our own, we're done. You know what I mean? So, being a cis woman is not something I could necessarily judge because I can't judge that. But for you, having been a part of Klexicon, how did it feel to be there? Did you experience your identity being respected? Like, how was that experience for you?
I had a blast at Klexicon. It was amazing. Mainly because I just had so many people that I loved there.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Friends and faves combined. But I guess I block it out when I go to spaces like that because I have to. Mm-hmm. It's not really something that I wanted to focus on. I just wanted to focus on getting to my panels on time and making sure I had the best time. But in general, sure, there are so many times when spaces that are for queer women, there's just, cis sexism is just a given anywhere that I go. Yeah. And unfortunately, in both trans and cis spaces, people don't think about non-binary people or gender queer people or gender non-conforming people. It's just not something that they think about because they're so excited to have their space,
Yeah.
But you have to remember that, as a cis lesbian, you're not the only one attracted to women in a queer way. You're not the only group of people to be marginalized and erased by cis white gay men or other white men. Closed spaces are necessary for marginalized groups to be able to let their guard down and be among people like them. Mm-hmm. But spaces for non-binary people don't really exist very often. You'll find that most spaces for women will welcome non-binary and genderqueer folks because many of those people have lived and live similar experiences to women. I lived my life mostly as a woman up until this point, until I, figured it out. And that was already 21 years in. So to be a good ally, you really need to break down the gender binary in your head and detach sex from gender. Stop being cis-sexist and assuming that all women have vaginas or that only women have breasts and periods. Using these symbols of female and women exclusively is so problematic because there are intersex people, non-binary people, trans people who go through the same thing. Just because we aren't women doesn't mean we don't share your experiences and struggles.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to me, there's this sweet space in here where we can talk about issues that affect us without being exclusionary. And I think that's what's important. So I know it's everywhere. It's in the oxygen, it's in the water, but so we can't solve it with one or two things. But if you could, I don't know, throw out a couple of things for feminist nerdy spaces like Lexicon, suggestions you would have, what do you think are a couple things that could make a little bit of impact to being more inclusive?
Introduce your pronouns. Make that a normal thing. in your social media bios, in your standard introduction when you meet people. Help us break down assumptions. Like, just because you're cis doesn't mean that you automatically use, whatever pronouns are assigned to you. There are cis people who use a combination of pronouns. There are, people who aren't quote unquote, visibly trans that like don't use those kinds of pronouns too. So for yourself or others, just introduce your pronouns, and it'll help people feel comfortable around you and safer because you did that. Use gender neutral language. A big thing that gets to me personally is when an MC says, "Hey, ladies and gents," or "Hey, girls and boys," or "We're all brothers and sisters" at like activist rallies and crap like that. Like,
right.
It's like, "Hey, you forgot about me because I'm here too, fighting the good fight." So,
right.
Yeah. So for conventions, like having pronoun buttons, like Klexicon had pronoun buttons, which were so cool. I only saw those on the last day, actually.
Really?
Or
I'm trying to think if
little, you have your badges. Conferences that I've organized, they've had ribbons that stick to the bottom of your badge that have your pronouns in larger letters that are way more visible than just writing them on.
That's great. Yeah, that would be great. Because I'm trying to think if I saw any. That'd be great. Yeah, if they had them, if everybody got one with their badge, that would be really cool. And actually, one thing I did want to talk about that's really awesome that happened at Klexicon was another one of your sort of creative outlets is you do cosplay, and I've seen you do cosplay photo shoots. I saw your Jonas Brothers shoot, which was super cute. But a really
Call me out.
Yes. Oh my God. It's so cute though. And a really fun thing that happened kind of at and as a result of Klexicon, which I think is such a special thing about fandom. So we have a lot of really great fan artists of a part of the Earper community. And you and Bendy cosplayed some art, and then someone did art of your cosplay.
Yeah. How trippy is that?
Yes. How fun is that? Like,
it was amazing. It was Joe. Joe, shout out to Joe. I love you so much. Joe is an amazing deaf activist who was in Scotland, and he does this fan art where he melts crayons, and he melts crayons onto canvas.
Yeah.
And he draws out he spells out words in BSL, but in like a picture, like he draws it,
so
and he'll draw like the subject of whatever the fandom is on the canvas in it, and it's just a really, really nice piece. He customized the crayons that he melted for me, and it's half the non-binary flag and half the trans flag, which was really cool because actually, if you notice, so me and Heather Harrison, she was my cosplay buddy for Klexicon, and we did the pose. So I was Doc and she was Waverly in her Waverly cheer uniform, and we actually posed in front of the trans flag, and that was the picture that we posted of that. So it was really cool. And then we did Skater Hot, which is what you were talking about. It is a Way Hot, Skater Hot, Punk Waverly piece that Diana Benitez did. She's another good friend of mine.
I have one of her pieces.
Amazing artist.
Yep.
And so we cosplayed her art, and then Joe did fan art of it was amazing. And he sent it all the way from Scotland. I was speechless, honestly. I love that this fandom specifically, we don't just fan over our faves, we fan over each other just as much. And the amount of positivity and support and love that just seeps through everyone that joins, every Earper, the generosity and kindness is such it's like a blanket of safety.
Yes. And I truly think that what happened with, you know, you cosplaying the art, then the art being, I really think that's where you reach sort of nirvana with fandoms, because to me, one of the highest goals of a fandom should be for the fans themselves to really understand that their contributions, whether it is fan fiction or fan art or cosplay, are every bit as important as anything that goes up on the screen, because it's all about us expressing ourselves and expressing love and expressing honestly and authentically. And there's nothing more important about someone else's art just because it's been televised, you know? And so I
Absolutely.
think when we see that, where we're supporting each other's art and building each other up, to me, I think that is like the ultimate goal of, it should be the ultimate goal of any fandom. That's my little soapbox. So I just loved to see that, because I was just like, look at that. Like, we're lifting each other up and celebrating each other's art, not necessarily, I mean, of course, the show, and they're amazing, but to not see it as, oh, they're up there and we're down here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We can all contribute to this sort of creative community, and that's what I think is so wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's just artists inspiring other artists, inspiring people who may not see themselves as artists to make art.
Absolutely.
And that's so beautiful.
Okay, so I could talk to you all night. I'm down to a couple of little random rapid fire segment. I just got 3 questions. So
Okay.
I just came up with a couple silly questions to ask everybody, just to like connect with the listeners on, you know, being fans. So, okay, 3 questions. 1, just fill in the blank. I will stan what or who for life?
Jonas Brothers.
Nice. I will.
Everyone who knows me knows that I love the Jonas Brothers way too much.
No such thing. This is a safe space. Never. Our unofficial motto is never too much and never too far.
Okay.
Okay, I will go down with the blank ship.
Faberry. Anybody watch Glee?
I haven't, but I'm familiar with the characters. Which 2 characters are those?
That is Rachel Berry and Quinn Fabray. They, oh my God, honestly, if you watch it and you watch them, it just doesn't make sense that they're not together. And that ship has like won awards.
Oh my God.
Like several times. And like they even call it out like in the script. I think Sue Sylvester actually, Sue Sylvester and one of the cheerleaders, like, and Santana. There are like 3 direct references to that pairing, and they even say Faberry in the show. So it was like the most queer baity, tortuous.
Yes.
Like,
just make it gay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3rd one, if you could choose one fictional character to be your imaginary friend, who would it be?
Oof, so hard. There's so many.
Right.
I would pick Ginny Weasley, but the book version.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
Because Ginny Weasley from the books is such a badass.
Mm-hmm.
She's so cool and mature and hot and talented. And honestly, I'm down.
Totally. Yes. I saw the movies before I read the book. So, yeah, you know, when people say like that is one of the characters that they just didn't have, I probably just didn't have time to put in the movies really fully. And then you read the books and you're like, oh my God, she's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So before we go, do you want to name one thing about you that people might be surprised to learn?
Oh my gosh.
Any fun fact people might not know?
Oh, I'm into K-pop now. Well, I think everybody knows that because it's all over my Twitter.
If they've been on Twitter lately, yes. How did that happen?
For anyone who follows me on Twitter, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for not unfollowing me and putting up with all this random K-pop stuff that I put on your timelines every day. I promise once Wynonna Earp comes back for season 3, there'll be so much more relatable content.
You know what? When people follow us, they get an entire package, okay? Just because it's fandom Twitter doesn't mean we can't branch out.
There it is. There you go.
Oh, God. Okay, well, thank you so much again. It's been so wonderful talking to you. You are a goddamn delight.
Wonderful.
And so do you want to just tell people where they can find you online, how they can support your work, that kind of thing?
Sure. My Twitter is at yourboynextdoor, BOI, and it's the same on my Instagram, except there's an underscore at the end of it. So at yourboynextdoor _ for Instagram, and just at yourboynextdoor on Twitter.
Cool. And I'll also put in the show notes the link to the ABCs of LGBT. I know you're working on that title, but the book. And then we'll also post some links to the artwork Joe did from your cosplay, if you can. I know you posted that on your Twitter somewhere. We got to dig that out so people can see it.
For sure, definitely. I'll just send you the file.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks again, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you out there soon.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. Okay. We live almost close. Almost.
I know. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Since we are podcast newbies, it would mean a lot to us if you'd subscribe and rate us on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Also, we love to hear from our listeners. Leave us a voicemail at 785-746-2604. Email us at ask@geekygirlguide.com, or hit us up on social media at Geeky Girl Guide, all one word, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And remember, in the words of the great John Barrowman, never apologize for being nerdy. Until next time.